Microsoft is doing some unexpected things right now, and I'm honestly really surprised. Their goal for 2026 is to improve Windows 11, make it snappier, remove unnecessary junk, and also unify the UI a bit more. But why are they doing it? In these crazy times, has Microsoft also gone crazy but in a different direction? I want to break down exactly what they are doing and what's the real reason behind all of these improvements. Now, if we take a step back, on March 20th, 2026, so that's about 2 months ago, they released this blog post, Our Commitment to Windows Quality. And if we scroll down a bit, they are writing down a few things that will be updated recently. And some of you might have already gotten these features. These features are more taskbar customization. They are writing, we are introducing the ability to reposition taskbar on the top or sides of your screen. Now they are saying introducing. We have had that since I bet 90s. I know Windows XP had that, and now they're introducing. No, they have removed that in Windows 11, and now we get it back. But hey, it's a good improvement, so what you gonna do? The next thing they are talking about is integrating AI where it's most useful with craft and focus. So what this means is that the AI in some places, for example Notepad, will just get the name renamed. So it will not be called Copilot Rewrite whatever it's called. It will be just rewrite text, for example. And in other places, the AI will be removed. So what they are saying is they're starting with apps like snipping tools, photos, widgets, and Notepad. One thing I'm really hoping for is that they don't add the AI, the Copilot, all of that into the Explorer, because the Explorer is kind of bad and needs big improvements. The next thing they are doing is also reducing disruptions from Windows Update. This is so necessary. If you don't remember, early days of Windows 11, it was a disaster. You would just get a message. In 15 minutes, your PC will be updated and turned off. And that's all. You couldn't do anything. And it was crazy. It was just bye-bye. But since then, they did a few good changes, and now they are doing even more changes. So in this update, you will have the ability to skip updates during device setup, which is a really nice one, especially if you are giving away a laptop or something to somebody. You can skip the updates at first and then update. You can restart or shut down without installing the updates, which is also a nice feature. And you can pause updates for a longer when needed. Also nice. Now, you should update because of the security and all of that, but this is a really good thing to add. The next thing is faster and more dependable File Explorer. So they write, File Explorer is the most useful surface in Windows, and our first round of improvements will focus on quicker launch experience, reducing flicker, smooth navigation, and more reliable performance. Finally, why is it so difficult to do that? Why did we have to wait for years for this? And one thing they don't write here, but if you use the dark mode and when you open the File Explorer, it would flash white for a millisecond, and that was really pain in the ass, but they're removing it or fixing it. Then we have a few other things. So more control over widgets. Now you can remove the MSN. I don't know whose idea was to push as hard as they did with the MSN news and all of that, but you can disable them finally. Then they will also simplify the windows inside the program. Few changes, few name changes and things like that. The last thing they write about is improving feedback hub. That's good. But if we take a half step back, so this was done March 20th. What happened a few days before March 20th? Apple released MacBook Neo. If you don't know, MacBook Neo is a MacBook, cost $599 or $699. And honestly, this is the perfect laptop for most people. This is what you would expect from an Apple laptop. It's aluminum chassis. You get few colors, and you have only two versions. You have 256 gig hard drive for $599 or 512 gig version with Touch ID for $699. And it runs on it was Apple 16 Pro CPU, SoC, all of that, with one less GPU, but honestly, for most people, it doesn't really matter. This will do a fantastic job for everything. So that happened a few days ago. Apparently, according to Tim Cook, who on March 20th said, Mac just had its biggest launch week ever for first-time Mac customers. We love seeing the enthusiasm. Honestly, it seems like it's selling like cupcakes, butter, whatever. All of that. So is this the reason why Microsoft is doing some changes? All the OEMs are scared. They don't have the hardware quality. They don't have the software quality. And this is a lost cause. If you don't know, a lot of young people are using iPhones and buying a MacBook Neo for a middle school, high schooler, or even college is just perfect. Long battery life, great performance. Now, if you do 3D stuff, of course MacBook Pro would be better. If you're editing, of course MacBook Air or Pro would be better. But for most stuff, MacBook Neo is absolutely fantastic. And that was for the kids, young people. What about the older people? People who watch YouTube videos, pay bills, and need a big screen with keyboard to buy big purchases. Well, this is perfect for them as well. So, they're taking pretty much 90%, 95% of all people with this one launch. But now you might think that that's the reason why Microsoft is doing all of this. But I don't think that is. You see, a big company like Microsoft to decide all of this, create groups, getting people, designers, programmers, project managers, whoever else they need, it doesn't happen in a week or two. Especially not because they have released the update for a good amount of people. Not everybody got everything, but a lot of people got a lot of stuff. So just those 2 weeks since the MacBook launch and then a month after a lot of people got it, I don't think Microsoft is moving that quickly. Instead, what I believe happened was, if you take a look at the Steam hardware and software survey, this is from April 2026, Windows has 93.5% and while Linux has 4.5%. Big difference. Enormous difference. But I did go back in history and if we look at the January 1st, 2025, they had 96.5% and in February 97.5%. So it's fluctuate. It's about 97%, while Linux had between 1.5% and 2%. And it has been like this since forever. Linux has 1-2%, Windows has 97, 98, and Mac is somewhere there. But if we go through and see, for example, in October 2025, it's for the first time ever, I think, it's below 95%, while Linux is for the first time ever at 3%. And then if we look at March, April of 2026, Windows is at 22-23%, while Linux is at 5 or so percent. There are about 40 million logged in users, so at 2%, that's about 800,000 people. Not a lot, but now 5%, that's about 2 million. And honestly, it's growing pretty fast. And there are two reasons why Linux is growing this quickly. First one is Steam Deck, Steam OS and Steam Deck. If you don't know, Steam Deck is a hand control console, just like Nintendo Switch. As you see here, battery, big screen, decent screen, and controls on the sides. And if we look now, all of the variations are out of stock, so not possible to buy any. They run between $420 and $680. So that was the first reason. Steam Deck is selling like butter cakes. The second reason is Proton, which is a software layer that Valve developed, where the games speak to the Proton layer and the Proton layer speaks to the OS layer. So this is only for Linux, I believe. And what this does is allows you to play games on Linux that were made for Windows. And as of right now, there are a bunch of games that you can play that were made for Windows, but on your Linux machine. Microsoft did try with a Steam Deck competition. What they did was, or what Lenovo did, was release Lenovo Go S Windows version and SteamOS. So it's the exactly same hardware, but one running Windows and the other running SteamOS. So the Windows cost $730 at launch, while the Steam OS version is $599. And if we look at the performance, SteamOS is about 10, 15, 20% in some cases better performance on the exactly same hardware. That's huge. That's enormous. It's a handheld hardware and you get 20% better just by installing a different type of OS. And then Dave 2D did some battery test. And so the Steam Go is the white and the Steam Deck with about 10% less battery is doing a lot better. If we look at the Cyberpunk, about 1.5 hours on Windows, about 2 hours on Steam Deck. But then we have Hades, which does about 2 hours on Windows and 4.5 hours on Steam Deck. Now that's double and a bit more. I don't know how that happens, but hey. And we also have Dead Cells, which does about 3 hours on Windows and 7 hours on Steam Deck. How is this happening? This is double the battery life. It's crazy. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Plus the Steam Deck is cheaper than Legion Go S. So those are the two reasons why Windows is losing market share. There is more. A few months ago, Valve released Steam Frames, which are the VR goggles, both standalone or connected to your PC, and Steam Machine, which is a Steam OS machine. PC, this cube thing. And as you can see down here, it looks perfect in the living room. It doesn't do any crazy stuff, it just works well. Well, we don't know. It hasn't been released yet because all the, AI buying all the RAM and stuff. Hopefully soon. We don't know much about it. But yeah, both these things, Steam Frame, Steam Machine, and the Steam Deck are or will be eating big market share from Microsoft gamers. So now, Microsoft is in the middle, and on one side we have Apple. Apple releasing a $599, $699 laptop, aluminum, all great, and they are taking that market share that was only for Windows, only for Microsoft. And on the other hand, we have Valve creating hand controllers, creating PCs with Linux, and taking that market share. Microsoft in the middle, losing on both ends. This might have started with Steam doing all this crazy stuff, but now they are against Apple as well, and they have to do something. And that's why I believe Microsoft is doing all of this to improve Windows. Do you want to know what Microsoft is more doing than just these few things here? Well, that will be next video. So here, Windows K2 it's called. I don't know why, don't ask me why. Honestly, I don't care. It's a bad name, but who cares? Windows K2, check it out. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.